Krishna. How are you all?
Good. Good.
Okay. So we'll start. We'll start with our Mangalacharan. Okay. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sarvana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्ते ताप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। All right, so we were discussing about the advent of the Supreme Lord, and what is the verse that we have been doing for so long? Tell me.
Janma Karma Devya.
Yes. Do you know the whole verse, Riyansh? Can you recite the verse for me?
No, I don't know the whole thing.
Okay, no problem. But okay, just give me 1 minute. All right, so Janma Karma cha me divyam, right? Just 1 second, huh? Yeah.
Can I recite the verse?
Please do. Please do.
Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tatvadeham punarjanma neti mameti so Arjuna.
Very nice. Very good. So, based on this verse, we've been doing quite a few verses from Bhagavad Gita, trying to understand why is it important to know the Janma and Karma of the Lord in Tattva, that is, his appearance and his activities in truth. What will happen in detail when we know about his birth and activities? What is the net result going to be? So all the verses that we are doing and the stories related to them revolve around this one particular verse. Okay. So now, as we know, first thing we understood was, if we understand this verse in Tattva about his appearance and his activities, we attain deathlessness. In that regard, we did the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj. Then we did the pastime of the son of Maharaj Chitraketu in regard to why are we so scared and why are we so fearful? Do we really die? Because in the story of Chitraketu Maharaj's son, we understood that it is just the body that is perished. The soul gets another body, soul never dies, right? Now, after that, the third story that we did, it was about Bharat Maharaj, that how different bodies, the soul goes through change of different bodies, and a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Why a sober person is not bewildered by such a change? Because we understand that we are all part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. We did the story of Kauravas, that despite being the part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, it is just our mind and the six senses which disturb us. And in that regard, we did the pastime of the story of Duryodhan, how he was so greatly disturbed because of his mind and his five senses, mind, including the mind, six senses. So now, if all of us are part and parcels of the Lord, that is what we were doing, then it is the mercy of the Lord, but because it is by the mercy of the Lord that we remember our past. It's only the Supreme Lord who gives us the remembrance and forgetfulness. And in that regard, we did the pastime of Gajendra Moksha, right? Then we did the pastime of, then we did that when the Supreme Lord, he gives us the remembrance and the forgetfulness. So, to know Krishna, who is the eternal Father, we need to have the faith element, and we understand. We did 2 verses. His in regard to his appearance, that why does he come and when does he come. So yada yada hi dharmasya, that is in that regard we did the pastime of Krishna, the war of Kurukshetra, he, and also the Ranchor part we did, how Krishna played the role of the Kshatriya who fled the battlefield and still he is worshipped. Okay, that is very, very rare. And Krishna being Krishna, so that's what we did. And the next verse we did in this regard was, so when does he come and why does he come? So paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So we did the pastime of Lord Ram, because he came to set the example of Maryada Purushottam, right? Now, again, coming back to Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. So what exactly was the point of knowing the activities and birth of the Lord in Tattva? So if we get deathfulness, and then when we will die, so by knowing we don't actually die, it's just the body that perishes. And by knowing all this here in what is the point of knowing all this in this material world? In this material world, by knowing the appearance and the activities of the Lord, and knowing that he is the proprietor, he is the supreme controller, what do we attain? We attain peace. For that, we did the verse Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasa, and we understood how Indra Bhagwan, when he denied the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, so we did the pastime of Govardhan, how he had to repent and regret his negligence towards the supremacy of the Lord. Then, do we actually get peace in this material world? So we did that. No, we need to get out of this material world, because this place is Dukhalya Ashashvatam. It is a place of misery. We are trying to find peace in a place where there is no peace, right? So how do we get out of this material world? For that, last time we did Devi Esha Gurmai Mam Maya Duratya Mam Eva Prapadyante Maya Mekam Tarantite. So in that regard, we did the pastime of Ajamil, how even on his deathbed, when he took the name of Narayan, he was able to attain the final destination, because he was given a second chance by the Vishnu Dutas, because he was chanting the names of the Lord at the time of his leaving his body. So we understood that just as we go to the house of a dog and the dog attacks us, we call out for the owner, right? And it's the owner who comes and takes care of the dog. Similarly, when we are under great influence of Maya by 3 modes of material nature, Maya Devi is none other than the most loyal servant of the Supreme Personality of God, because it is her responsibility, it is the job that has been given to her, it is the duty that has been assigned to her by the Supreme Lord to make sure that all the souls are bewildered, and she is very good at it. Now, to protect ourselves from that Maya, we have to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how do we approach? How do we seek his shelter? That is the verse for today. By surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How do we surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That is explained in Bhagavad Gita 18.65 verse, which talks about, so it talks about how we should surrender. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namashkuru mame vyashasi satyam te mayam pratijane prayasi me. Right? In this regard, today we are going to do the story of one of the kings who was really, really, really surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But before that, what is this verse talking about? It says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus, you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Now, because he is the supreme, and we have to surrender unto him as everyone else, even demigods are temporary. That will be temporary. So now, if you have to understand, if somebody asks you for something and if you don't have it, can you give it to that person? No, you need to have it, right? Similarly, the nature of this material world is that it is temporary. This is the temporary nature of this material world. And anything in this material world is temporary. So we cannot, even if we try, we cannot gain eternity. We cannot live in this material world because even Lord Brahma, if you remember, when Hiranyakashipu was basically worshipping and doing his austerities, trying to please Lord Brahma, what is it that he asked Lord Brahma of? He said, can I live forever? And what did Lord Brahma say? So what did he say? He said that even I am not immortal. How can I give you that? Then he did all roundabout ways to come back to the same point that, no man will kill me, no animal will kill me. I should not die by a weapon. I should not die by, all the conditions that he was trying to put, not on land, not in water, not in air, not in sky, whatever, all the conditions that he put. But can he outsmart Krishna? No. So Krishna came up with Narsingha's appearance, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow is Narsingha Chaturthi, and that is when Lord appeared to protect Prahlad Maharaj. So anyway, so back to what we were doing. That yes, so when we worship the demigods, we are trying to seek blessings from them, which they also don't have. So if anybody wants immortality, they cannot get it from the from the demigods, because the demigods themselves have a temporary nature. Okay, now who should we surrender to then? We should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how do we surrender? That we are going to understand from the story of Ambrish Maharaj. Who was Ambrish Maharaj? So there was a king by the name of Nabhak. Nabhak was the son of Manu. Okay. And he lived for many, many years in Gurukul. Okay. In Nabhak's absence, when he was studying in Gurukul, his brothers, they basically did not consider him at all when they were dividing the kingdom, to get their shares. And when he came back, what did they? So they divided the entire property amongst themselves. And when Nabhak returned home from Gurukul, they assigned the responsibility of taking care of their father as his share. Okay. Nabhak, when he went to his father and told him what had happened, the father told him, this is really unfair. This is not how it should be done. You've been cheated. So what did he advise him? He advised him that for his livelihood, he should go to the sacrificial arena and describe 2 mantras to be chanted. He described 2 mantras, and Nabhak did that. And by that, Angira Rishi and other great saintly people, they gave him all the money that was collected in that sacrifice. Now, to test Nabhag, even Lord Shiva came there and he challenged his claim to the world. But Lord Shiva was very, very satisfied with Nabhag's behavior. And so he offered him all the riches. As time passed by, so from this, we understand that the character of Nabhag was very nice. He was a nice devotee, a nice person, a nice human being. So as time passed by, he was blessed by a son named Ambrish. This Ambrish Maharaj, he was very powerful and he was a celebrated devotee. So he was actually it came to the point when he became the emperor of the entire world. But he was very learned and he understood that all his opulence was temporary. There's nothing that he could call his own because he didn't possess anything. He understood that temporary nature of the material world he was aware of. Indeed, knowing that such material opulence is the cause of downfall into conditional life, he was unattached to the opulence. Not only was he aware of the temporary nature of the material world, but he understood that and therefore he was not attached to anything in his life. What did he do? He engaged his senses and mind completely in the service of the Lord. And this process, so he would use his eyes to see the deity form of the Lord. He would use his sense of smell to smell the tulasi leaves and the flowers offered to the Lord. He would use his mouth to chant the glories of the Lord. He would use his ears to hear the glorification of the Lord and Krishna Katha. Like that, all the senses, in fact, being a king, so he was very opulent, but because he was a devotee of the Lord, he had a nice altar in his palace. He himself would use his hands to clean that altar and make nice arrangements for the pleasure of the Lord. He would use his legs to walk towards the temple. So like that, all his senses he used in the service of the Lord. He was so surrendered, right? This kind of, yes, Riyansh, tell me.
How did he use the sense of taste?
By honoring Krishna Prasadam. That's all he would eat, and also by chanting the holy name. So there are two things you can do with your tongue, right? You have the power of speech, and then you enjoy, you taste the delicious food that you get. For him, it was not food, it was always prasadam. He didn't eat anything other than prasadam. And he used his power of speech by chanting the glories of the Lord and spreading Krishna Katha. So this process of using all the senses in the service of the Lord is called yukta vairagya, or feasible renunciation, which is quite suitable for the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, because Maharaj Ambrish, as the emperor, was immensely opulent, he performed devotional service also with great opulence. Now, if I have something, so now if you have, say, a wonderful garden full of fresh flowers, obviously you will offer the best of the flowers to the Supreme Lord, right? So whatever you have in abundance, you are going to use that in the service of the Lord. And he had abundance of everything. He was very opulent. So his service to the Lord was the best. He used the best of everything in the service of the Lord, right? So despite his wealth, he didn't have any attachment to any. Normally, it's so that the more you have, the more you want, and the miser you are. You don't want to spend your opulence or your wealth other than on your son's gratification. But Maharaj Ambrish, he was a very renounced person. He was not attached to forget about the material things in his life. He was not attached to his family also as such. Only because they were the devotees of the Lord, he was taking care of them. So his wife, his children, his kingdom, he made sure that everybody is a devotee of the Lord. And he was not very greatly attached to all of this. So he constantly engaged his senses and mind in the service of the Lord. Therefore, to say nothing of enjoying material opulence, he never desired even liberation. He was like that. Normally, people want liberation, but he was such that he was not wanting liberation also. He just wanted to be engaged in the service of the Lord using his senses. It so happened one day that Maharaj Ambarish was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan and was observing the vow of Dwadashi. So, we recently on Monday was Ekadashi. I don't know if all of you observe Ekadashi, but normally when you observe Ekadashi, the very next day of Ekadashi is called Dwadashi. That's when you break your fast. Now, when you break your fast of Ekadashi, there is a particular time slot which is called Paran time. And if you don't break your fast in that time, your fast is not considered to be complete. Okay. Now, and this time slot, it varies, sometimes it's half an hour, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's, couple of hours, sometimes it's few minutes also. Now, when on this Dwadashi day, the day after Ekadashi, when it was time for him to break his Ekadashi fast, who appeared? Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni, we know for a fact that Durvasa Muni is a sage who gets pleased very easily and who gets upset also very easily. So Durvasa Muni, when he arrived, obviously on his arrival, Maharaj Ambarish offered him, to sit there, relax there, and then invited him for eating prasadam. And then Durvasa Muni agreed and he said, okay, before I take my meals, I will take my bath in the Yamuna river at noontime. Now, while taking his bath in the Yamuna river, he was completely absorbed in samadhi. Because he was absorbed in samadhi, he did not come back very soon. So Maharaj Ambarish, however, when he saw that it was time for breaking the fast and it was passing by quickly, with the advice of his other brahmanas present there in the court, he broke his fast by drinking water. Now, it is against etiquette if you have a guest in your house and you honor prasadam before him or without him. That's not the right etiquette. So supposedly he was to wait for Durvasa Muni. Now Durvasa Muni was taking his own sweet time and the parent time window was passing by. Now if he didn't break his fast, the fast wouldn't be complete. He was very confused what to do. Because he was observing a Nirjal fast, his brahmanas advisors, they advised him to break the fast by drinking a sip of water, that too through Achman, right? If you do that, then it is drinking water, is not eating anything. So in that regard, he didn't break the etiquette. He did follow the norm. But at the same time, because he was doing Nirjala, that means he didn't have water the previous day on Ekadashi. By drinking water, he could break his fast. So even that condition was also fulfilled, that he had to do it in a particular time frame. Now, Durvasa Muni, on the other hand, he could understand by his mystic power that Maharaj Ambarish had broken his fast. And he got really upset. He was so angry. When he came back, he began to chastise Ambarish Maharaj. But he was very, very angry, right? So he started chastising Ambarish Maharaj and he was not satisfied by doing that. So what did he do? He created a demon, from his hair. He just plucked out a hair from his head and he threw it on the ground and there appeared a demon. This ferocious demon, he appeared like a fire of death. And his purpose of, being created was to kill Ambrish Maharaj. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was seeing what was going on, and he just didn't like this. He came as a protector of the devotee, right? To protect Ambrish Maharaj, what did he do? He sent his disc, which is called Sudarshan Chakra. Yes, Riyansh.
Why was Durvasa Muni angry anyway? I mean, like, why would he be angry?
Durvasa Muni, he was angry because he thought that it was not the right etiquette for Ambrish Maharaj to break his fast without him, because he was present there as a guest. And when a guest is present in your house, you don't eat or drink anything before or without the guest. And Durvasa Muni was yet taking bath in the Yamuna river.
Yeah,
but
didn't so I thought you said it was fine to drink water if it was a
that was the advice which was given to him by his brahmanas present there, but Durvasa Muni did not accept that. It's actually absolutely okay to break the fast with water if you've done nirjal. So it is considered both as eating and not eating. In the sense, he broke the fast because he was fasting from water also. So he wanted to save the time, the paran time, because he wanted to save his Ekadashi Vrata. But at the same time, he was following the etiquette of not, disregarding the presence of his guest. So that is why it was considered fine. But Durvasa Muni, as we said, he is very famous of getting upset or angry very easily. So that really triggered him, which was not required. But for this Leela to happen, it had to happen. Okay? Yes, Mehika.
Mataji, I wanted to ask that I heard that Ambrish Maharaj was fasting for a few years, or like at least 1 year. So was it only for 1 day or 1 year?
No, this was after. So we're going to come back. We are going to come to there. That it's when the Sudarshan Chakra went after Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni had to go in all the celestial planes, everywhere in all the 14 planetary regions to protect himself from Sudarshan Chakra. Finally, he reached Lord Narayan, and Lord Narayan asked him to go back to Ambrish Maharaj. That whole time took 1 year.
No, Mataji. I was saying that for like the time that he fasted before Durvasa Muni, was that 1 day or 1 year?
So that was 1 day. But then because Durvasa Muni was upset with Ambrish Maharaj for drinking water, Ambrish Maharaj did not honor prasadam for another year till Durvasa Muni came back.
So basically it was like 1 day before Durvasa Muni came, and then 1 more year because Durvasa Muni was upset.
Yeah, okay. Because Durvasa Muni was trying to protect himself from Sudarshan Chakra. And the reason why Durvasa Muni was upset was because he broke the fast. So to honor that, Ambrish Maharaj himself also did not take anything till Durvasa Muni came back. Make sense?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay. So now what happened was this demon was created. Now this demon, he was a fiery demon, but the Lord sent his Sudarshan Chakra, and that immediately vanquished this fiery demon. And then now the chakra pursued Durvasa, who was at this point of time not happy with Ambrish Maharaj. But Durvasa Muni, he fled everywhere, to Brahma Loka, to Shiva Loka, and all other higher planets, but he could not protect himself from the wrath of Sudarshan Chakra. Finally, he went to the spiritual world. There, he surrendered to Lord Narayan. But Lord Narayan also could not excuse. He normally doesn't excuse a person who has offended a Vaishnav. That is why Vaishnava Aparadha is the greatest aparadha, right? So he was not happy. He was just not happy. Now, to be excused from such an offense, one must submit to the Vaishnav whom he has offended. So now if I have offended a Vaishnav, I have to seek forgiveness from the same Vaishnav. Even the Lord will not forgive me because Vaishnava Aparadha, Lord can take anything against him, but not against his devotee. So there was no way for him to be excused. And thus Lord Narayan, what did he advise him? He advised Durvasa to return to Ambarish Maharaj and beg his pardon, right? So, Mika, you have something to say, beta?
No, Mataji, I forgot to lower my hand.
No worries. The Lord cannot tolerate an offense committed against his devotees. Okay. Now, so the Lord continued. What did he say? Oh, Brahmana, now let me advise you what to do to escape danger. Please listen closely. When employed against my devotee, one's so-called prowess inevitably harms him who employs it. So by offending King Ambarish, you have acted against your own best interest. Therefore, you should immediately go to the king and beg his forgiveness. Do not delay even a second. If you can pacify him, then there will be peace for you. So the Lord completely rejected his appeal and he said, I have nothing to do with it. You offended him, go seek his forgiveness. If he forgives you, you'll be at peace. So, feeling very much harassed by Sudarshan Disk, Durvasa Muni immediately left and Lord Narayan, and he retracted his flight back to he retraced his flight back to earth. Now, upon reaching King Ambarish's palace, he quickly entered the main hall. He fell down and clasped the king's lotus feet. When Durvasa touched his feet, Maharaj Ambarish, being the devotee of the Lord, he felt very ashamed, very embarrassed and aggrieved. And out of deep compassion for the sage, he began praying to the great weapon, to Sudarshan Chakra, great weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sudarshan Chakra. What did he say? O Sudarshan Disk, I offer my obeisances unto you. You are fire. You are the most powerful sun. You are the moon, the master of all luminaries. You are religion. You are truth. You are the maintainer of the entire universe. And you are the supreme transcendental prowess in the hands of Lord Krishna. Your very name, Sudarshan, indicates that you serve as Lord's auspicious vision. You have created everything by your activities, and therefore you're all pervasive. O protector of the universe, the Lord has engaged you as his all-powerful weapon in killing the envious enemies. Yet, for the benefit of our entire dynasty, I pray that you kindly favor this poor Brahmana. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one without a second, who is the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, and who is the life and soul of all living entities, if that Supreme Lord Krishna be pleased with me, we wish that you free the suffering Durvasa Muni from your searing heat. So this is the prayer that Maharaj Ambarish was saying to Sudarshan Chakra. He was offering these prayers to Sudarshan Chakra. Now the king's humble prayers is what pacified the Sudarshan disk, and he stopped burning Durvasa Muni. Now he was deeply grateful, Durvasa Muni, and he began to praise King Ambarish. My dear king, today I have experienced the greatness of Lord Krishna's devotees. For although I greatly offended you, out of mercy you have overlooked my offense and prayed for my good fortune. O king, I am very much obliged to you. In this way, Durvasa redeemed himself. So what is that one thing that was happening here was because he's the devotee of the Lord, he is more compassionate than the Lord himself. See, that is what Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us in Bhagavad Gita, that normally one of the 10 offenses, there are 10 offenses when you chant the holy name of the Lord. One of them is that you should not instruct a faithless person. But when Lord Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is, as a devotee of the Lord, he set an example that Lord Krishna, he demands, surrender. Mahaprabhu doesn't. If you see the pastime of Jagai and Madai, they were there trying to be very hurtful to Nityanand Prabhu, right? But despite that, Nityanand Prabhu, being very compassionate, he gave out the mercy, the love of Godhead to both Jagai and Madai. So a devotee of the Lord is more, that is why all these book distributors, if you see, who are distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in such, very difficult circumstances also, they are there more than willing to take the risks and reach out to people who are demoniac by nature. Many have been harmed also in this process, but they don't think about themselves. All they are thinking about is how to spread Krishna consciousness. So a devotee of the Lord is more compassionate than the Lord himself. That is why here Ambarish Maharaj, being a devotee of the Lord, is more compassionate than the Lord. The Lord rejected Durvasa Muni. The Lord told him, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Please go and seek forgiveness from the person you have offended. I cannot help you. Here, Ambarish Maharaj, when he saw Durvasa Muni in trouble, he reached out to Sudarshan Chakra. He offered prayers to Sudarshan Chakra and pacified the Sudarshana. This is a devotee quality. How does a devotee behave? A devotee is para dukha dukhi. He is sad when others are sad. So this is a very important lesson we learned today, that we have to be compassionate. Otherwise, it is there's no difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Otherwise, we are like other mundane materialistic people, right? So we need to be compassionate. We need to understand other people's miseries. We have to put them before our own needs. This is what exactly Ambarish Maharaj did, and that's how Durvasa Muni, he redeemed himself. So true to his mystic perfection, was like a valuable jewel, but he had misjudged the position of Krishna's devotees and had acted enviously. This is what exactly Durvasa Muni did. He misjudged the position of a great devotee of the Lord. In the end, who came to his rescue? The same devotee of the Lord. But now, after all this, Durvasa Muni, he came to realize the true position of Lord's devotees. He praised both them and Lord Krishna himself, and that's how he became fortunate. So when we surrender unto the Lord is there to protect us always. How are we supposed to surrender unto the Lord? We have to engage all our senses in the service of the Lord, just like Maharaj Ambarish did. And that's how Maharaj Ambarish protected him, not only from the demon that was created by Durvasa Muni, but he also made sure that Durvasa Muni comes and seeks forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj. Only then was the Lord ready to forgive Ambarish Maharaj. Okay? Any questions? Any comments? Anybody has anything to say? No? We're good? Okay. So we'll end here, and I'm going to see you next week.
I have a question,
Yeah.
Mataji.
Mehika, yeah?
So, Mataji, my question is like not really like good to answer. Like, I don't think there's a good answer for this, but like, why does Durvasa Muni have such a high temper? Like, why does he lose his temper so quickly?
So Durvasa Muni is an ansh of Lord Shiva. The way Lord Shiva is known as Ashutosh, one who's easily pleased and one who gets offended easily, because he is an ansh, a part of Lord Shiva. He has the same traits. Okay.
Okay, Mataji.
All right. Thank you so much. And then I am going to see you next time.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Hari.